The Brand Ed Podcast with Robbie Fowler, episode 34. Use this trick to quickly position your coaching, consulting, or speaker business. Welcome to the Brand Ed Podcast, the show that helps you position, pitch, and profit from your brand. I believe the chaos and confusion around what branding is, why it matters for your business, and how to translate your brand into profit leads to overspending on marketing, underperforming businesses, and overwhelmed leaders. Stay tuned to discover how to position your brand in the market, pitch your business with purpose, and profit from a life-giving brand that blesses you and your customers. Welcome to this episode of the Brand Ed Podcast. Glad you're joining me today as we continue to take a look at this little series on how to pitch your personal brand. If you're a consultant or a coach or a speaker, or maybe you're a course creator, a thought leader, those are obviously crowded spaces. There's plenty of other coaches or trainers or consultants or speakers out there. So how do you stand above the crowd? Well, much of it has to do with how you pitch or position your personal brand. So we've been taking a look at that. Back in episode 32, we looked at the 3 Ps you need to start positioning your coaching, consulting, speaker, or thought leader business. So if you're getting started out and you're trying to kind of make your way, in that episode, we looked at how do you just begin to, separate yourself from, again, all of the other folks that do similar work that you do or that you're wanting to do. And we said to begin to position your personal brand, you start with the 3 Ps, and that is the people you serve, the product you offer, and that could be a product or a service or an offering or even a course or a program. The people you serve, the product you offer, number 3, the process you use. Those are the 3 Ps that you're going to start using to begin to narrow down and position your personal brand. And remember, we said, when do you need the 3 Ps? You need that certainly when you're starting your new business, right? So if you're starting out as a consultant or a coach or a speaker, you need it then. But you also need it anytime you're going to pivot your existing business. Or number 3, we said when you're launching a new revenue stream, right? Around a maybe new product or service. You're going to need to know the people you serve, the product you offer, and the process you use. In the last episode, in episode 33, we looked at, this is where you start if you've got the most clarity around who you want to serve. Okay, so if you know fairly clearly, I know who my audience is or who my customer is, I know who my people are, I know who I want to serve, then you start there. If that's the clearest for you out of the people, product, or process, out of those 3 Ps, you start there, right? You start there and then you say, how can I help this group of people? That's where you begin. You want to start with, what can I do to help them with what they cannot do themselves, right? This is something they can't figure out themselves. So that could be what questions this group of people is already asking you about, either formally or informally, like they come to you or when you're hanging out, you get these kinds of questions. Or maybe it's where you feel compelled or excited to help. Like, I really get excited. This energizes me when I help this group of people. Or you look at, how you've produced results. Hey, when I've helped that group of people, this is how I've produced results. It's when I've helped them with what. Or then we talked about, what have you personally figured out already? So if you know who you want to serve and you're trying to figure out, well, what would I offer them? What product would I offer them? It might revolve around what you've personally already figured out, particularly if you are like your audience. If you're, the same customer type as the audience you're going after. If you're a consultant and you want to help consultants, or if you're a consultant with leadership experience and you want to consult or help other leaders. So you just would look at, okay, where have you personally seen success or breakthrough. So you start with who, if that's what's clearest to you, the people, the product, or the process, and then you would start to fill out some of the blanks on the product you offer and the process you use. Okay, so today we're going to say, well, how do you position your coaching or consulting or speaker business when you're not exactly clear on who you want to help? And this is very common. You're like, man, I could help so many people. Don't make me pick just one. This is a very common struggle. So what do you do when you go, I'm not entirely sure who I want to help? The people, question, or the people P is not as clear to me. I'm not exactly sure because it just could be so many people. So some of you would say, hey, I'm much more clear on the product I want to offer. Okay, so maybe this is where you start with your positioning. If the who or the people isn't the clearest thing to you, for some of you, it's going to be with, hey, I know the product I want to offer. Now, to be clear, this can be a product, right? It could be a course. It could be a coaching group. It could be a consulting offer. It could be the focus of your, speaking, what you want to speak about. So when we say product, don't get confused and think some sort of physical product. It could be a physical product, but it could be a course or a coaching group, a mentoring group, some sort of consulting offer, again, a topic that you speak on. So this is where you start when you have the most clarity around the product you want to offer. Okay, so this could start with like a topic or a subject that you have interest in, that you have experience in, and that you have expertise in. So just to give a couple of examples, you might be thinking, okay, I'm a consultant or a coach, or I want to start speaking, or, I've been a coach, but I want to narrow down, or I want to pivot my business, or I'm a coach or a consultant or a speaker, and I want to kind of open up a new revenue stream. Okay, well, what do you want to start talking about, right? What product do you want to offer? It could be around leadership development. Maybe it's like workplace team communications, right? I am a coach and I want to help, teams in the workplace communicate better, open those lines of communication up. Maybe it's something like, the product I want to offer has to do with social media automation. So many people get bogged down with trying to create social media, and I just love kind of creating a system and automating that. So maybe that's the product you would offer, and that's clear in you. Maybe your product or your topic, right, is around resume writing. You've got lots of background experience. Maybe you worked in HR. So you say, hey, the product I want to start with is clear to me. I'm going to do something around resume writing. Or maybe like if you're a speaker, you say, I know what I want to talk about. Like I want to talk about burnout in the workplace, burnout for leaders. That's what I want to talk about. So if that's you, then maybe it's easier as you think about positioning your coaching, consulting, or speaker business. Maybe it's easier for you to start here. Maybe this is fairly clear for you, right? You may still have some work to do, but you're like, I know for sure this is the product, or think in terms maybe of topic or subject matter that I want to talk about. This is where I have expertise. This is where I have experience. This is kind of what people tend to ask me about. This is what gets me excited and energizes me. Okay, so that's step one. You begin with the product you want to offer, and you're really just thinking, this is when you're clear on that topic or that subject that you want to offer a product around. So we're not even necessarily, you don't have to be to the point to say this specific or particular product yet. If you can get there, great. But if I want to offer something around a product or offering around this subject or this topic, then that you can see that already begins to position you different from just the mass, group of other consultants or coaches or speakers that are out there. Okay, so step two, what I want you to do is if the product is most clear in your mind, that's what you have the most clarity around, then you work from there. You work out the people who need help with that product or offering, that topic or subject, right? And then you would work out what process you would use on how you would help them. So if the product is most clear in your mind, then you work on the people and the process from there. Okay, so last week, again, in the last episode, we talked about maybe the people is most clear. This is for those that say, I'm not sure. This could be for all sorts of people, or I have no idea. I just know I want to start here. This is what, I want to begin to offer a product or service around. So if that's the case, let me give you some examples of what this looks like. Let's say that you're clear on the product you want to offer. The topic or subject you're going after is, let's say, leadership development. The way you then start to get more clarity around positioning, more specific, is you would say, okay, if the product you want to offer is around leadership development for ... and then you fill in the blank, right? Here's some examples. I want to offer a product around leadership development for millennials wanting a promotion. Okay, so that's an example of you began with the product and then you moved to people. And when you combine those, you can see you're already taking a really big step forward towards positioning your personal brand. I talk about leadership development for millennials wanting a promotion. Okay, so this is examples of when you know the product, how do you move from product and then start adding the people question on there, right? Our 3 Ps: people, product, process. Here's another example. The product I want to offer is around leadership development for first-time managers, right? First-time managers. So that's who I want to go after. Or it's leadership development for sales teams, right? I've got a background and experience in sales. I want to, coach around or create training around or courses around or consult with sales teams. So I want to talk about leadership development. That's the product I want to offer for who? Sales teams. Or maybe here's another one. I want to talk about leadership development for serial entrepreneurs, right? Those that they're great at starting things, then they wind up with so many irons in the fire. I want to talk about what does it look like to be a good leader if you're a serial entrepreneur, because maybe that's your background. Maybe that was, the background of someone, a family member, and you've kind of watched and you've learned, I want to talk about that topic, that product, right? Leadership development around serial entrepreneurs. Here's a couple of more examples. Let's say the product you want to talk about is workplace, team communications. That's the product or offering you want. That's what's clear in your mind. Okay, so workplace or team communications for, maybe it's manufacturing teams. Workplace or team communications for remote SaaS companies, right? All these remote workers. How do you communicate? Maybe you want to talk about, team communications for IT support departments. Or maybe you want to talk about team communication with supply chain teams, right? These teams that have to coordinate all these different supply chains, and you've got a way to help them communicate. Maybe it's social media automation, right? That's the product for whom? Maybe it's for personal brands. Maybe it's for social media managers. I want to talk about social media automation for business to customer startup companies, something like that. Maybe it's resume writing, right? So the product you want to offer is resume writing for recent college grads, or maybe it's resume writing for those wanting to pivot into a new career. Okay, so you get an idea. If it's burnout, like if you're a speaker and the product you want to offer, right, that topic or subject is around burnout, then you might say, for whom? Well, I want to talk about burnout for, around the tragedy of brilliant leaders that are lost to burnout, right? That's what I want to talk about. And the process you might use, examples would be, because once you know the product, then you can go tackle the people, and then you can say, well, how would I help those people? Is it one-on-one coaching calls? Is it using a certain steps or a framework? Is it, if you go to that, if the product is around burnout, and who is it for? It's brilliant leaders that are lost to burnout. Obviously, we would be talking to brilliant leaders who don't want to be lost to burnout. Then the process you might use is, hey, I've developed 5 signs of burnout for brilliant leaders, right? So that's an example of how if the product is most clear to you, Then start there and work your way to say, who is this for? That will help you niche down and position around the people you want to serve. And then you say, and then how would I deliver that product or service, right? And that's going to help answer that process question. So when you combine those two, starting out with what's most clear to you, you can quickly see how you can really narrow down and position your business so you don't look exactly like everyone else. Okay. So hopefully that's helpful for you if you're like, I'm not sure on the people, but I'm clear on the product I want to offer, the topic or subject I want to go after. Okay. Then start there, flesh out for what group of people do you want to do that to? And what's your process? How are you going to help that group of people? Okay. Again, another super fast episode because I just wanted to walk you through that. Now, the hard work is in your hands. I want you to take action on this. And I've actually got a free resource to help you do that I'll share with you in just a second as we wrap up this episode. So again, to recap real quick, we're talking about positioning your personal brand, particularly if you're a coach, a consultant, or a speaker, or a trainer. It's so crowded out there. And yet for most people, it's really challenging trying to figure out, how do I position myself? Okay, we've looked at 2 out of the 3 Ps. We introduced the 3 Ps a few episodes back. That's the people you want to serve, the product you want to offer, and the process you want to use. And then last episode, we said maybe the people, that one is most clear to you. You know who your people are. Then you would work out the product and the process to go help them. In this episode, again, we looked at what if that's not clear. The clearest thing in your mind is the product, or maybe it's the topic that you want to go after. If that's you, start with the product you want to offer and then say for whom. So that helps you answer the people question. And then how would I help them? That helps you answer the process question. Thanks for joining me on this episode of the podcast. This is a fun topic, and it's an important topic for coaches and consultants and speakers because it is a crowded market. And so this little series on how to begin to position yourself is very, very important. Now, I want you to join me on the next episode because I've got a little worksheet I'm going to give you with that episode. So make sure you join me as we continue to look at how to position your coaching, consulting, or speaker business. If you have a question, I'd love for you to reach out. If you're not sure or you're wrestling through on exactly how to position yourself, then you can just go to robbyf.com/question and you can submit your question and we will look to answer some of those on the podcast. So if you've got a question, go to robbyf.com/question. You can ask it there. I'll put that link in the show notes as well. And until next time, and again, I hope you'll join me. We've got one more episode to talk about on how to position your business. So make sure you join me. I'm going to give you that free resource that I think is going to help you on that next episode. So I can't wait to see you then. Until then, go and build a life-giving brand.